Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Debt Circle podcast, India's dedicated platform for debt market. I am Leelavati Shetty, your host for today's episode, The Psychology of Yield. When investors evaluate an opportunity, one number often grabs attention immediately: yield. The higher the yield, the more the returns, the more attractive the investments. But is a higher yield always better? What risks sit behind that number? And where does smart investing end and yield staging begin? To discuss that, we are joined by Rita Thakur, Managing Director, Geneve Capital. Rita Thakur, welcome to our show.
Hi, Leela. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, ma'am. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Great. So, before we actually start, the attraction of the term the yield, I think people would love to know what is it all about. So, let's start with the obvious question: why do people love yield?
Yield is something like a fruit that you get at the end of your investing process, be it debt, equity, or any kind of an investment that you make. Yield is something which you get at the end of, that's the result, that's the end game.
So, do investors see higher yield as better investment?
Yield is not basically any gift from the market. It is a number which the market gives you to accept uncertainty and risk.
And is this driven more by logic or psychology?
All the investment decisions or all yield chasing begins logically with the view that a logical decision would be taken, but it eventually moves towards psychology. जैसे इक्विटी में कहते हैं ना, हम आते तो सब ट्रेडर्स बनने के लिए है, but we end up being investors.
But normally, I guess that is how the mindset has been, and that is how our education system has also been. Higher the yield, higher the risk.
That is true. That is
Yeah.
true.
But eventually, I guess that awareness is there and people start learning about it.
Yes.
So, has
So it
invest.
goes
Sorry.
this way that every yield has a story to tell.
Mhm.
The higher the yield, that story you have to more carefully listen to.
Yeah. So, has the investor behavior around yield has changed in these years, or is this still the same fundamentally? It's still the same.
Yes, definitely. With the change in technology, the change in time, with the awareness about more number of products, the perception or the behavior of the investors towards looking at yield has changed.
Mhm.
Earlier, gold used to be an investment, and nobody really looked at the yield of the same, or real estate as an investment, nobody really looked at the yield of the same. But now we see that there is more discussion that if you buy a real estate product, there your IRR or the yield is pretty low if we compare it to any other class of financial assets. So there is definitely a change in the behavior or the mindset of people when they view yields.
So now let's look at the risk in the sense attached to this number. So what's behind this number? So when evaluating higher yield, what are the key factors and hidden risk which investors often overlook?
Higher the yield, I think the lower the credit rating chart that you go. If you have, let's say that a triple A company
Mm.
which gives you a rate of 8%, and you have a triple B company which gives you a rate of 13%, there is definitely a rating matrix that is followed, and there are definitely inherent risks in the higher yield. Uh, the risk that an investor should definitely look forward is what is the promoter pedigree, what is the nature of business, what are the kind of cash flows that are expected in the company that they are investing into, and post which, only after analyzing all the possible risks which are on the table, they can take an investment decision.
Hmm.
In times which are bad, when there is a war like scenario, you might get good assets also which are highly rated at throwaway prices at better yields.
Hmm.
So it's a combination of timing and the risks, I would say.
So what is yield actually compensating for?
Yield is compensating for the risk that you have an appetite for.
Can a lower yield investment create better profits?
Uh, if we just look at numbers, we can say that it's difficult to create better profits
Mm.
with lower yield. However, with market movements, we have seen that lower yielding assets also have created value. It will, end of the day, will depend upon the market movements only. You may buy a certain asset, let us say a government security, 10-year government security was available at around 7% just 2 months ago because of the war. Now, the same government security is available at 680 today. So, there is a 20 basis points movement, and that has created kind of a profit here.
And are investors ready to take that kind of a risk?
Yes, definitely.
So, what we saw is, in this episode that earlier we discussed about, why people want to, why people love yield, then what is behind the number. Now, we would love to know, is this a trap? Like, why yield is becoming so important, and when does yield become dangerous? So when does looking for better returns become chasing, higher yields? So at what risk do investors often ignore because the returns look attractive?
Yes, everybody of us, we are living in a very high inflation scenario right now, owing to war and other situations. We see that food prices have flared up. Every investor today wants that wherever I have invested my money, that should generate an alpha, which is at least beating the inflation adjusted risk. So we try to invest into opportunities which we deem that could be risk free or have a certain element of risk which can be avoided or which can be mitigated. The class of investors who are investing, again, there would be changes and differences in the way they think. Let's say that provident fund, pension fund investors, they have to perpetually provide a certain return to their subscribers. Now there would be, let's say, organization, a government organization, EPFO body, which has subscribers in lakhs, and they have been perpetually investing into the markets. The yield scenarios have changed over years. Let's say in a very high yielding scenario, it is easier to give them the required rate. Let's say if we discuss the provident fund body, the EPFO body, they are mandatorily required to pay 8.25 as a return on the subscriber's money. In high yielding scenarios, situations, this is a possibility that they can generate this kind of a return. However, when the yields drop drastically, they are in a position that they are not able to provide this kind of a return. That is when they will look at other revenues like equity or uh, you can say REITs, InvITs, or AIFs as an instrument. Equity, REIT, InvIT, AIFs, they will come with their own set of risk reward formulas. If you invest straight in government securities, it is sovereign, it is almost like a risk free return. But naturally, for a risk free product, the rate of return would be lower. And as you move towards an AIF, though it would be a little bit riskier than this, but this gives you a yield kicker. So when I put together the blended product, I may possibly make a return which can beat 8 quarter some way or other way, some or the other way.
So are retail investors more vulnerable to this, or do institutions fall into the same trap?
I would like to put it this way that amateur investors, they chase the yields, they chase the returns, and then they circle back to evaluating the risk. While professional investors, they evaluate the risk first and then see whether the return is worth it.
How does market cycle influence investors' behavior towards yield?
When there is a equity euphoria,
Hmm.
you would see that most money flowing towards equity, coming out of debt and coming out of other conventional form of investments. When there is a geopolitical risk scenario, then you will see that all the money coming out of equity and moving more towards debt or gold as an investment. So yes, market cycles definitely impact the way people look at yields. There will be situations in high euphoric scenarios or when there is a very bull market kind of a scenario, people will always play riskier bets. I mean, they would expect more yields in such scenarios in a bullish scenario and they will ignore the risks. While in bearish scenarios, you might get very good products at good yields, but you would still go for risk free kind of returns. So there is a trade off in this. Market cycles do play a role in the investor behavior of what they choose.
So, talking about investor behavior, what do you think, what are the biggest mistakes, or what are the mistakes which investors make while evaluating a fixed income opportunity?
At times, people just discount the inherent risks which are involved. In debt instruments, there are a lot of covenants which come. The nature of the instrument also needs to be evaluated. There may be a product which comes from a AAA rated company. Not every product that comes out of a AAA rated company is secured. So there would be the nature of instrument defines. You have a perpetual instrument, you have tier one, tier two instruments, you have senior secured instruments, and you have a subordinated instrument. Depending what class of investor you are and what is your risk appetite, where in these products are you placing your money? Let's say that if an investor is buying a perpetual bond, the nature of the bond is perpetual in nature. He or she at the time has to understand the risks that are involved you can absolutely lose your capital as well as interest for an investment in this kind of an instrument if its rating falls or if certain covenants are breached. This kind of an understanding of the risk only comes by the knowledge of instruments. To compensate for this risk, you have to be compensated by the spreads in this product. Let's say that a secured instrument is available at 7%. So, what should be the spread when I buy the perpetual of the same company? It should be 100 basis points, it should be 80 basis points, or only it should be 20 basis points. That is anyone's guess. The perpetual instrument should have a higher spread. So, if you look at markets in US, the lower rated instruments there also have a very deepened market out there, and the spreads are very, very well defined. A secure instrument of a certain company and the perpetual instrument of the same company go at a spread of 2 300 basis points, 400 basis points, while in India we see that sometimes that risk is really underrated, and we see the perpetual instruments of the same companies being issued at only 30 40 basis points spread. That does not really compensate the retail investor for the risk that he or she is taking.
As you rightly mentioned, I mean, risk is not directly associated with returns. Of course, the higher the risk, you expect higher returns, but at times it may play the
Yeah,
other way
the
around
higher
as well.
returns, you chase
Yeah,
higher returns, but
yeah.
at what cost you have to be very worry and cautious about it.
So, Rita, what do you personally think about balancing yield, safety, and liquidity?
Yeah, so naturally, I would say that safety comes first, followed by liquidity. You may have a particular bond which is giving you a high rate of return, but the day you want to exit out of it, and if there is no exit, you're kind of trapped.
So, is there such a thing as a yield that's too good to be true?
Yes, here there is a concept in, I would say, the lending market or the debt market: willingness to pay and ability to pay. You might have the money to pay. I'll lend you some money. You might have the money to pay, but if you do not have the willingness to pay me back, I'm never going to receive my money back, right?
Right.
Though you may have the ability, that will be known only over a period of time. So, coming to your question, that is there such a thing as yield that is simply too good to be true? Yes, there are occasions. I would give you two scenarios where uh, there is a company which is, let's say, in the middle of a debt crisis and it is not getting enough funding. It is ready to pay any cost to remain afloat. This is kind of a 50-50 scenario. The company may remain afloat, the company may go down, the ship might just sink, and you may lose all your money. But at that time, if you're being compensated with a very high yield and where you've been able to stitch a deal which has deeper covenants and you are able to secure an instrument which is, covering your risks at that point in time, then that's a good investment. But exactly opposite, if you are a retail investor, you're just seeing that there is a bond instrument which is giving me an 18% yield, and just because it is giving me 18% yield, I should participate in this kind of an instrument. It could be a very risky bet. So naturally, the risk and reward has to be understood, studied only by reading the offer documents, going deep into the DRHPs, and naturally the documentation that goes along with this.
Yeah, normally retail investors, for them it is more about the returns,
Yeah,
and they are the ones who are investor chasers.
yeah.
How much return am I getting? So unlike equity market where you put invest in a stock and as the price rise, they feel, I mean, they know they can directly correlate.
Right,
Whereas when it comes to yield, it plays a different story altogether.
right.
So
It's simpler to understand equity
Right.
because there is only one parameter by which you will judge whether the company is doing good or not. My
Right.
equity stock is rising or it's falling. In bond also, the price rises when the yields fall. Now the yields could fall because of the market scenario, or the yields could get better when certain companies which were earlier lower rated, but as their quality of credit improves, their credit quality improves and their ratings grow higher. I would give you one very good example. There is a company called Shriram Finance. Earlier, they were rated double A, then they become double A plus. They waded themselves through the 2018 crisis, post ILFS, DHFL crisis. Those bonds in the secondary market were traded as high as 12 to 13%. Today, if you look at Shriram Finance, it is being traded in the range of 775 to 780. So the investors who were patient and who were with the company right from those days, right from their AA plus days, they are seeking the entire benefit. They are reaping the entire benefit now when the company is a AAA rated entity. So not all high yielding assets are bad, I would say. If the Promoter pedigree is good. If the company is into good business, which is scalable and is profitable over a period of time, you may enter into a company when it is smaller relatively, when it is giving you a higher yield. And as they grow, naturally your investment also grows in its value. So the instrument, let's say that Leela would have bought in 2019 of Shriram Finance, which at 12%, you would be sitting on a huge gain right now if you would be still holding that instrument.
Yeah, patience is the key.
Yeah. And picking your
Right.
kind of instruments
So
and the
what's
right kind of company selection, as you say in
Right.
equity also. So, what horses you're really riding upon would really make a difference.
So, what separates a disciplined investor from a yield chaser?
A disciplined investor would invest irrespective of the market condition, would keep investing whatever surpluses they have. Uh, while the yield chaser would wait and may just try to time the market. Now, timing the market is, I think, it's really in nobody's control. There will be some events which you can predict, possibly. Uh, let's say that we are expecting an El Nino effect, which can be inflationary. This kind of predictions can be made based on the current information that is available to you. But whether there would be a war between two countries 6 months down the line, which will impact the supply chains and which will cause a lot of impact on the currency and which will eventually cause a lot of impact on your yields, these decisions are very difficult to take. How do you time these decisions? So if you are an institutional investor at all points in time, you naturally keep juggling these balls. You would keep picking the avenues which you think are right at that point, right? Right now, if let's say that as an institutional investor, I'm finding that relatively I'm getting better spreads in lower rated credits or better spreads in corporate bonds or better spreads in state development loans, I would keep switching my buys or my buy sells or my trading strategies accordingly.
So, Rita, based on your experience, what's that one lesson from debt market that applies to investing as a whole?
I would say being in the market makes a difference. You win some, you lose some. But just being out of the market will never get you there.
What's one lesson from debt market applies to investing as a whole?
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah. One final message for investors navigating today's market environment.
Bull markets put us in a fairy tale kind of a situation where we think that the returns are certain while the risks are only theoretical. The reality really hits us hard when we are in a 2008 kind of a scenario or 2013 where we saw the global economic crisis across the globe, or if we talk locally, 2018 crisis which hit the Indian NBFC market. So there is a price that we pay always for the risk that we take. At Genew Capital, we believe respect risk first, the returns will follow.
Rita, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights. And thank you everyone for tuning in. We will be back soon with another Dead Circle conversation. Until next time, thank you for watching. Thank you.